again. We're talking about the increase in U.S. military presence in the Middle East, all the planes, all the boats,
more bombers, more explosives,
everything.
And all of this is because Iran wants to play this game of they attacked us, now we will attack them, and we will have the last attack against them, even though we started.
Yes, so we're...
Very mature.
Yes, we're at an incredibly tense time in the Middle East. And this has happened several times during this last war. We've talked about it multiple times on the podcast, where the U.S., in response to a rising tension in this region, they just bring in
more forces.
All of it.
Like, okay, it's very tense, let's bring more bombs, more explosives, more submarines, more airplanes. That will calm the situation down.
At the point, if you go for a swim in one of the oceans around Israel right now, you might bump
into a submarine accidentally.
Bump your head into some kind of like a military vehicle.
Military vessel somewhere.
So let's start. Welcome. You're watching the TBN Israel podcast.
Great name.
Which is currently still named the TBN Israel podcast. I'm Shoshani. This is the one and only Pinto.
Thank you very much.
Back from several days of being sick at home with the best of the Israeli flu season.
Yeah, it's very strong stuff. COVID was for kids. The flu is what we're talking about.
Anyway, you got me there. Anyway, so we're talking about everything that's been happening recently. When people are listening to this, we're right after yet another tense U.S. elections.
Exactly.
And as they hear this, the region has been awash, for lack of a better term, with whispers of war. The Iranians threatening to go out to full-out war, threatening to attack the allies of the U.S. and Israel, threatening to, if anything is done to them...
we will do a lot more severe with bigger rockets this time, with multiple coordinated attacks from Iraq, from Syria, from other places, simultaneously as well as from Iran. That's the newest threat.
And people are believing them.
Well, they don't lie mostly.
Yeah,
they do deliver.
The American government is believing them, and is not willing to take any chance whatsoever to prevent the Iranians from doing anything.
Yeah.
And again, the Iranians, they use their projections of power and their retaliation to weaken both Israel and the allies of Israel, to weaken U.S. power projection in this region, to weaken Israel power projection and other allies of these countries, the UK in certain cases and several other alliances. And in response to that, the U.S. government has done things in this region that have not been done in a long time.
Moving such amount of soldiers and military personnel and vehicles into this region.
Yeah.
That's a very hard thing to undo. I mean, after you move the forces here, they're here to stay for a while.
Well, for a season. I mean, the American army is quite mobile, but it's not for a couple hours.
It's not like boom.
It's not overnight. Yes. Yeah. So some of the things we've seen recently that have not happened in a long time: projection of power, a B-52 flying over Yemen. Yes.
Yeah, attacking. In Yemen.
Sorry, bombing in Yemen. Dropping a bunch of bombs. Now, there's a whole thing that I don't understand enough about how the U.S. doctrine in utilizing aerial assets works. And there are stealth bombers and stealth attack fighters and UAVs, and then there's the big bombers. And the big bombers are used for very specific purposes.
Basically, after you neutralize all the aerial defense systems, then you're sending the slow big bombers that can drop a lot of bombs, heavy bombs, and basically flatten out an entire neighborhood.
Yeah, and what an F-35 or an F-32 can carry, F-22 can carry.
A few bombs that are very precise.
Small bombs. But if you want to drop a Moab, a bunker buster, or something more severe, you need the big bombers, the OGs. And they brought those into this region. Mm-hmm. They brought in a substantial amount of other defense sets and other attack capabilities, and we're going to talk through them. And it's all to show the Iranians that they mean business. This isn't just a empty statement of like, we'd really ask you kindly not to attack Israel in retaliation.
No, it's like, we're ready. If you attack, I mean, we're here to respond.
Yeah. We're putting our foot down if you respond. And it's interesting, they've showcased some of the weapons. These are not defense weapons.
No,
These
it's
are
attack weapons.
Yeah. There has been an influx also of the defensive side. So there's a huge strategic significance to this. They brought in more defense tools. They brought in more ships. They brought, there's a term that the U.S. Army or the U.S. Navy or whatever the defense forces use, they call it strike groups.
Yeah.
So it's not just a ship that comes in. It's when the aircraft carrier comes in, it comes in with a logistical support. It comes in with so-and-so air...
Of course, you need technicians to come in with it.
No, not just on the vessel. It comes with other ships.
Yes.
Many other ships. Mm-hmm. Cruisers, all these different missile ships. All these defensive assets. Intelligence airplanes, all these different things.
Cooks.
Yeah.
I mean, basically we know that for every fighter you need at least, 10 or 7 non-fighter soldiers to make sure the operation runs.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of forces here in this region now from the United States. And it just means that the U.S., despite all the rhetoric and all the politics, the U.S. military is here, boots on the ground in this region, ready to react to whatever is happening.
Yes.
So we do have a responsible military power here in this region, ready to react to whatever development will happen.
Yes.
Which is good because they're on our side. I'd rather have the Americans here.
I'd rather there was no tension, but yes, all things considered, this is the best.
I don't know when we had no tensions. Didn't we?
Not recently. Not in the last 15 years. So let's set the stage for what's been happening. We're talking today about the fact that the U.S. armed forces have significantly increased the amount of assets they have in the Middle East. And those assets include special forces spread out through different countries, ships, aircraft, logistical support, air defense systems, intelligence energy that's focused on this area, multiple visits of the head of CENTCOM, Central Command of the American Army, all focusing their attention on this region. Again, to frame the conversation, the U.S. Armed Forces is by far the biggest, the best equipped, and the most professional army in the world, period, full stop.
Yeah, they have the best technological advantages, abilities, capabilities.
So this army that is a machine, an unstoppable machine, that is a force second to none in the world. In fact, when you count the number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think it's the next 8 armies around the world combined have a smaller budget than the U.S. Army.
Yeah.
The U.S. Army has a budget that is double the annual budget of the Army of Israel. The government of Israel.
The government, yeah.
The army.
Yeah. And it's only like 2% of the international economic budget of the entire United States.
Yeah,
less than that.
of the GDP of the... Yeah. So again, the U.S. Army's budget is bigger, multiple times bigger than the entire annual budget of the state of Israel.
Yes.
Enormous army. I think it's like 3 million soldiers total. If you
very
count,
professional.
Very highly professional, highly trained, highly mobile. It's the only invading military force in the world that is capable to stage multiple arenas of war, I think that's how they call it, around the world at the same time. The only army around the world that is able to self-support an entire fleet or armada or ground force that's located halfway around the world for an extended period of war. And they've done that. The U.S. Army is no stranger to this region. It's fought in Afghanistan for a lifetime.
Yeah.
It fought in Iraq for a lifetime. It continues to carry out operations, not a lifetime, a generation.
Lifetime for those who
lifetime for those who they were fighting. Lifetime for those who were fighting against them. Sorry for that dark humor.
Wow.
But anyway, but for a generation.
Yeah.
20 years, 20-something years. So they're highly, highly present in the Middle East, and they've sent even more troops right now to show everyone around the world, specifically the Iranians, guys, don't mess with us.
Yeah. Oh, don't.
Or else.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see, what turns out of that, because you never know. Hopefully the bigger people bark, then they don't need to bite, because this can easily turn into a regional war with other superpowers getting involved.
Yeah. So all that to say that this incredible fighting force has focused its energy, its attention, its assets on this part of the world. And it's focusing it because everyone's had enough of what's been going on here. And there's a push across every front, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, Iranians, to bring this never-ending, going on 13-month war that's been fought on multiple fronts, to bring it not to an end, but to some kind of conclusion.
Yeah,
and the conclusion's a series of agreements, a armistice agreement, some kind of...
Releasing the hostages, stopping the maneuver in South Lebanon, stopping this exchange of attacks between Israel and Iran, and then having some kind of, let's get back to normal business in this region.
Yes. And
she's threatening without actually attacking.
Yeah, and this is all done with the backdrop of multiple exchanges of blows between Israel and the Iranians. In every one of them, the American armed forces were involved in aiding Israel actively. It's going after several years of the Americans fighting against, let's call it proxy wars on behalf of Israel and its allies against Iranian proxies, the Houthis specifically. And the Americans have ebbed and flowed in their ability and desire to be the peacekeepers of this region. And the later days of the Biden administration in this region are strongly marked with a very clear message of, we stand with Israel strongly, we're putting our money, our assets, our technology, our global support in finances, in military equipment, in personnel, and in diplomatic support behind Israel, full stop.
Amen.
I know this is a charged political statement, but you can also talk about what happened before the war in relation to the democratic government. But during this war, the American government has aided Israel heavily in a substantial amount of money, substantial on every account, on every level, in a substantial amount of weaponry, in a ongoing,
it's hard to say, but despite what you hear by politicians, the actions of the United States military army in general is different.
Yes.
We have agreements, we have arms shipments, we have support when we were attacked by Iran multiple times, and we have the support in the future if we'll be attacked against.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, so that's nice to hear, to know.
So that's that, and I think also on an emotional level, it's important to state that you can't overstate how important it's been for Israel to have the emotional support of the Americans. And again, every now when we're talking about this, on on an ongoing basis, were sort of on the high horse. You know the expression?
On the high horse? Not on the small horse?
No, on the high horse.
Okay.
No, small horse, less good. High horse,
good.
Good.
Okay.
In Hebrew, we say alagal, on the wave.
On the wave, okay.
Now, we're winning in Hezbollah, we're winning in...
Yeah, we started with the peoples, then the Nasrallah assassination, then number 2 assassination, number 3 assassination, 4 assassination, basically no more numbers there, and then we're doing well, so... But it wasn't always like this.
It wasn't always like this, and when this war started, and we were both called into reserves this October over a year ago, we were isolated globally. Exactly. And the U.S. government, in a very strong show of support, publicly, from president and all the way down on every public official, they stand beside Israel. And they do it unequivocally, they do it without any, but unless, without any, I can't say this, without going back on any of those statements, they strongly support Israel, they strongly aid Israel, they strongly help. And right now it's this push to do that again, to try to sort of wrap up this conversation to move on to the next phase.
Yeah, so let's go back to what happened so far between Israel and Iran, which is like the biggest existential threat of the Jewish state in these days. So they launched an attack of hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones at us. Then we retaliated by targeting an aerial defense system near a nuclear facility of Iran. Okay, one strike or something very small and precise and pinpointed.
You're talking about back in April.
Back in April, yeah. Then they carried out another massive ballistic missile attack.
That was on October 1st.
Exactly, good memory of dates.
Israel, UK, US, maybe the Jordanians. I don't think they ever officially said, but people say that they were part of it. Maybe
the airplanes were being launched from Jordan. You can say it like that also.
Maybe the Saudis shared intelligence. Maybe the UAE actively participated. Again, it's a digital mesh of multiple armies sharing information live. These are objects flying through the sky at a very high velocity, sharing intelligence live, sharing target acquisition live, sharing a real live mission control. And that includes, and this is where things get personal, it includes American generals getting in the war room of the IDF. In Central Command for the Air Force, Central Command for the Army. It includes Israeli emissaries going and spending time in Central Command of the American Army. The highest level of intelligence sharing.
The highest level of military officials from the U.S. coming to Israel on a frequency of weekly, monthly basis.
Yeah, and there is no playing this game alone. And I think that's where this is really important to comment on this. When the U.S. Army operates in this, armed forces, when I say army, I mean that it's hard to break the habit because in Israel we're just an army, just the IDF. When the U.S. armed forces enter into this region, we're working hand in hand with them in a very, very close way. And when we're doing that, our ability, our full force multiplier, and theirs, by the way, it's this beautiful integration of the two systems, at least from what we can see from the outside. We're not, I don't see those conversations, in a way that is highly effective. And it really allows us and them to flex the military muscle and prevent the Iranians from responding, because they know this isn't like a 3-month process of figuring out how we're going to retaliate. It's a 3-hour process.
Yeah.
We already have everything.
We have all the plans, we have all the targets, we have all the assets, and we can also accelerate and make the response a lot harsher than what it was before.
Yeah.
Because still, the Israeli response to the attack against us was very, very minimal compared to what we can do and what is possible. And if you're talking about the damage that we can exert to the wider Iranian nation, country, we can completely cripple the economy. It's not something that we want or the U.S. wants at this point.
No, we can't necessarily do that without the Iranians being able to respond. We've talked about this previously. The Iranians have the ability to exact a toll on the global economy almost immediately. All it takes, and it really isn't that much.
Stopping the Persian Gulf or something like that. Shipments
they sit on Bab el-Mandab, they sit on some of the straits. They have enough ability and naval capacity and aerial capacity within the IRGC, bless you again, all they need to do is knock out a couple oil carriers, oil tankers. All they need to do is blow up, and they've done this in the hands of the Houthis, blow up an oil refinery in Saudi. It doesn't take much for the price of an oil barrel to go up through the sky, impacting the entire global economy. So they have that ability, and the U.S. doing what they're doing right now, and then you add onto that the diplomatic pressure, this very strong push of we are with you, we're pushing for a resolution. We will not hesitate to state that Israel is in the right and the Iranians and their evil partners are in the wrong here. That's been incredibly significant to the people of Israel.
No, for sure, definitely. Mati, I want to take a minute and to tell our viewers, first of all, if you
I have no doubt about it. Because, again, this war, this isn't just a conventional war of one army versus the other. It is a war that also includes a ton of counterterrorism, and it includes training other forces in this region. The enemies of our enemies, the forces of other countries around us.
Yeah, and also you need to pick your allies and invest in them and help them train and evolve so that they will fight your war for you instead of you needing to send your own troops to that area and solve their problems. This is how every army is operating, if it's Russia, if it's the United States. And that's how everybody's operating in this region, also Israel. I mean, in many occasions in this region. And place to end.
Let's summarize.
Okay, lots of bombers, lots of soldiers, lots of vessels, lots of aircraft carriers coming to the region. Beware where you jump into the water that you don't hit any military vessel.
Okay. Knock your head on a U.S. submarine.
Don't watch out if you're fishing that you don't, fish a nuclear submarine or something accidentally.
I love that, Hinch. And again, to say, of all the topics we talk about, this is one of those cases where the prayers and the love and the support and the public support of the State of Israel affect policy in a substantial way, where the U.S. government has backed Israel on every possible level, has been a friend to Israel on every possible level, has equipped the Israeli army, again, on every possible level, again and again and again. And we deeply, I can't express this in words, deeply appreciate the show of support that we've seen over the past year. And it doesn't matter, what the political state is in the U.S. If anyone's watching this and wondering if their prayers and care for the State of Israel matter, they absolutely do.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Definitely.